One factory just shut down. 7% of America's entire beef processing capacity gone overnight. And within 30 days, that single shutdown could add 10 to 20 cents per pound to every package of beef you pick up at the store. This is the strike nobody saw coming. This is not just a labor dispute. This is a supply chain choke point that connects directly to your wallet. In the next 7 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how a single meatpacking walkout, the first in 40 years, can trigger a domino effect that raises grocery prices nationwide. And the most shocking part? The real reason this is happening comes at the very end. Let me introduce you to Jay. Jay is a line supervisor at a meatpacking plant in the Midwest. Every morning, he clocks in at 5 a.m., pulls on his steel-toed boots, and spends 10 hours on his feet processing beef. For years, the system worked. American Meatpacking was a machine. 4 companies, JBS, Tyson, Cargill, and National Beef, controlled over 80% of all beef processing in the United States. And the crown jewel of that machine was the JBS plant in Greeley, Colorado. This single facility processed roughly 6,000 head of cattle per day. That is enough beef to fill the shelves of thousands of grocery stores every single week. For consumers, beef prices were high but stable. For workers like Jay, the paycheck was predictable. 40 hours, overtime when available, health insurance that mostly covered the basics. It was not glamorous, but it was reliable. The American beef supply chain hummed along like a well-oiled engine. Grocery stores stayed stocked. Restaurants kept their menus. Families like yours planned their weekly meals without thinking twice. Everyone assumed this system was unbreakable. But here's what nobody talks about. When 80% of an entire industry flows through just 4 companies, you do not have a supply chain. You have a tightrope, and tightropes snap. But here's the thing. On March 16, 2026, that tightrope snapped. 3,800 workers at the JBS Greeley plant walked off the job. This was the first major meatpacking strike in the United States in 4 decades. The union, UFCW Local 7, laid out their demands. Wages that actually keep up with inflation, better medical coverage, and an end to forcing workers to pay for their own protective equipment out of pocket. Think about that. These workers handle industrial knives and heavy machinery for 10 hours a day, and the company was charging them for safety gloves. Jay watched his coworkers walk out. He thought about his rent, which went up 11% last year. He thought about his grocery bill, which climbed even faster. And then he joined the picket line. Now, here's where it gets dangerous for all of us. This is not just about one factory. The U.S. cattle herd is currently at its lowest level in 75 years. Drought across the Great Plains decimated grazing land. Ranchers sold off animals they could not afford to feed. Supply was already a ticking time bomb, and now the single largest beef processing plant in the country just went dark. Imagine a highway with 4 lanes. Now, close 1 lane during rush hour. That is what just happened to America's beef supply. And the traffic jam has already started. Now, here's where most people get it wrong. You would think a company posting record profits would simply pay its workers more and move on. JBS's parent company reported over $70 billion in global revenue last year. So why not settle? Because this is not just about one contract negotiation. This is about power. If JBS gives in to worker demands in Greeley, every plant in the country becomes a potential strike target. Tyson, Cargill, National Beef, they are all watching. The truly terrifying part? I will reveal that shortly. First, consider this. JBS says they will reroute production to other facilities. Sounds reasonable, right? It is like saying you will reroute a river with a garden hose. Their other plants are already running at near full capacity. There is nowhere to absorb 6,000 cattle per day without massive bottlenecks. Meanwhile, cattle are backing up on feedlots. Feedlot operators are paying to house and feed animals that have nowhere to go. Those costs get passed forward. If the U.S. had a more diversified processing infrastructure, say 30 regional plants instead of 4 megacorporations, this single strike would barely register. Instead, one walkout can paralyze 7% of national capacity overnight. The system was not designed for resilience, it was designed for profit. And those two goals just collided head on. So, what does this mean for you? Let us get specific. Right now, the average price of ground beef in the US sits around $5.50 per pound. Analysts warn this strike could push that up by 10 to 20 cents per pound within 30 days. That does not sound like much until you do the math. A family of 4 buying just 3 pounds of ground beef per week. That is an extra $30 to $60 a year on one product. Now multiply that across steaks, roasts, and processed beef products. Jay is on the picket line fighting for a livable wage. And ironically, the strike itself is making his own groceries more expensive. That is the cruel math of a concentrated food system. But it does not stop at beef. When beef prices spike, consumers switch to chicken and pork. That increased demand pushes those prices up, too. It is a protein domino effect. Your grocery bill does not care which aisle you walk down. And here's the question nobody is asking. If 4 companies can control your access to affordable protein, what happens during the next disruption? A drought? A pandemic? Another strike? The answer is exactly what you're seeing right now. The most unsettling realization is not that prices are rising. It is that we built a food system where a single labor dispute at a single plant can threaten the dinner plans of 330 million people. Now, here's what I want you to sit with. Record corporate profits and worker shortages can both be true at the same time. That is not a contradiction. It is a feature of a system that squeezes maximum output from minimum investment in people. Jay is not asking for a fortune. He is asking for wages that keep pace with the groceries he helps produce. The real question is not whether this strike will end. It will. The real question is whether we will still be having this exact same conversation during the next crisis? How are you preparing for rising grocery costs? What would you change about this system if you could? We treat food like it is infinite, like it just appears on shelves by magic. But behind every package of beef is a chain of decisions, workers, and vulnerabilities that most of us never see until one link breaks, and then we all feel it. The strike in Greeley is not the disease. It is the symptom. The disease is a food system built on concentration, not resilience. And until that changes, your grocery bill will always be one disruption away from chaos. If this opened your eyes, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss a breakdown like this. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And share this with someone who needs to understand why their grocery bill keeps climbing. I will see you in the next one.